AITA, for temporarily moving out of the home I share with my husband until my pregnancy is over? I, 30F, understand this might be a confusing title that raises some eyebrows, so let me explain. My husband and I have been together for 6 years. He has 2 kids with his ex-GF. My stepson is 9, and my stepdaughter is 8. When I met him, they were already broken up, and they weren't BFF levels of co-parenting, but they were civil, and she was civil to me when we met. They have shared physical and legal custody, so the kids spend the same time in both homes. My husband and I got married 3 years ago, and things were still good. I developed a great relationship with my stepkids. Their mom and I were on better terms than I had expected after hearing a lot of negative stories from others who had married people with kids. I would never say she and I were friends or that my husband and her were friends. But we got along well for the sake of the kids, and they were the priority for everyone involved. My husband and I started trying for a baby last year, and after a few months, I became pregnant. My husband and I let his ex know just before the kids in an effort to keep full communication going. The kids were with us when we told his ex, and her response was to hang up the call the second she realized my husband was serious. All she said was, "Are you serious?" And he was like, "Yes," and then she was gone. We told the kids, and they weren't excited, but they seemed okay about it. Mostly they wanted to know they wouldn't have to share a room with the baby, which we assured them they would not. When the kids went back to their mom's house, she called my husband back and went nuts on the phone. She cursed us both out, said we had some nerve expecting our baby to be my stepkid's sibling, and that there was no way someone else was giving them a sibling. She wished for me to miscarry and told my husband that there was no way she would ever let the kids see the baby as a sibling, ever. He asked where this came from, and she said only she had the right to birth a sibling for her children. After this, the relationship between us and the kids' mom went to hell. She became hostile, explosively angry, and she was in the kids' ears. My husband spoke to his attorney and he was told to start documenting everything, so he did. The kids' attitude changed pretty rapidly. They were all right with my husband, but with me their attitude changed. They accused me of hurting their mom, of trying to take them away from their mom, of wanting them to love my baby more than their mom, and of saying their mom was a bad person because she couldn't have more kids. My husband and I talked to them, but they became angry. For a while it wasn't something I stressed a lot about because I believed we could figure it out after years of having good relationships. Even when they told their dad they wanted him to not have a baby with me because it made their mom sad, I thought it would be temporary. Then they started trying to hit my stomach. They would run off whenever I was alone with them. In public, they would tell people they didn't know who I was. My Emile had to come over and be here while my husband was at work. My husband had to punish the kids for the violence and the behavior when simply talking to them and trying to reason wasn't working. He wanted to put them in therapy, but his ex refused to consent, and their court order states both parents need to consent to therapy. He filed in court for permission to get them therapy, and with the hope of dealing with the alienation too, but we still needed to gather evidence. The physical attempts were increasing every time they came over too. They would seek me out to try and hit my stomach. I was stressing more and more, and it started to reflect in my blood pressure. It was a very abrupt change, and my OB was monitoring me closely and asking questions about reducing stress, but I explained I couldn't stop because I was afraid of what would happen with my stepkids. He told me I needed to reduce stress, and it wasn't good for me and the baby. I was even admitted to the hospital for a few days and my blood pressure reduced, but it rose once I was back home. So my husband and I talked, and I left to stay with my parents for the rest of the pregnancy. I stay in touch, and we're just waiting for court now, and we're hoping something positive will come from it. The kids will say they want me to lose the baby, and so does their mom. My ILs know this, but they weren't happy with my decision to leave. They told me it will be harder to go back, and I'm letting her win. They said it sends a terrible message to my stepkids that I don't love them enough to stay. I told my husband, and he told his parents to back off. But they said part of being married and a family is staying and fighting whatever comes, even if it means dealing with some stress. I told them it was serious and my doctor said I needed my blood pressure down. But they said it just seemed like giving up and a path to more excuses about why I can't go back when the baby's born. They brought up the fact the kid's mom is still angry and reaches out more and more to say horrible stuff too, and my husband is dealing with it all alone while I abandoned him. On that note, since we announced the pregnancy, there have been more calls and texts from his ex than ever before. It's making me question myself, even though I know I'm doing the right thing for my baby. It's working too because my blood pressure has improved and my stress levels have improved a lot. I have my husband's full support as well. But I am stuck asking myself, am I being an AH to some people even if I'm doing right by the baby in me? IDK. AITA?